Hi, I'm Penny from A1 Base.
Hi, I'm Rita from ZeroEntropy.
So tell us about ZeroEntropy.
Yeah, ZeroEntropy is a search engine, a high accuracy search engine over unstructured data. Our mission is to help developers put better retrieval systems in prod for their RAG applications or their AI agents.
So for those who aren't in this space, explain to us what RAG is.
Yeah, for sure. So RAG stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. So it's a framework that's been around for some time now, and it's a way to help LLMs get specific context and knowledge from existing databases to have sources that the LLMs can use before generating an answer. So it really builds trust on the output of the LLM by really being fed from existing sources.
What can companies do with RAG, and I guess what can't they do with RAG?
Yeah, so with RAG, companies can actually connect knowledge bases to LLMs. So basically, it's a way to search through information and feed that information to LLM so that they can generate useful answers. Without RAG, the LLM doesn't have a source of information that can be retrieved from, and that can be a problem to really trust the output of the LLM.
So can you give us some cool use cases with RAG?
Yeah, absolutely. The use cases that I find most interesting are the ones in very high stakes industries like law or medicine. So with RAG, you can build a medical copilot that can search through all of PubMed and answer specific questions on a specific, diagnosis or a specific research paper with a lot of trust because you have the exact citations from that paper.
I can imagine with things like medical data and even legal work, that's getting the right information is really important, especially for the LLM. How does kind of ZeroEntropy come into that, and how does it differentiate?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the accuracy part of the retrieval step is really important. Usually, most companies look at the end result, the output from the entire AI application, but it's really important to look at the retrieval step only to make sure that the system was able to find the right information before generating any type of answer on top of that. So that's really the part where ZeroEntropy is focused on, is really improving the accuracy of the retrieval step.
Are there any fun use cases you see at the moment?
Yeah, absolutely. There are some fun use cases when it comes to consumer AI applications. So thinking of this company that's building conversational AI on top of LinkedIn profiles and professional content, where you can ask questions to all of the content that someone has written or said, and they can answer questions about any specific business question you might have.
So when do developers get to the point where they start thinking, we need to use ZeroEntropy for better accuracy?
I think it really depends on the size, the volume of the data that they're dealing with. If it's a very small data set, usually what developers do is they use the entire context of the LLM. There are LLMs that have bigger and bigger context windows today, so that can be a solution. In reality, what we see is that if the number of tokens is higher than around 20,000 tokens, it's usually better to rely on a retrieval augmented generation framework, especially since you can optimize that retrieval step and you can have the exact sources and citations from your knowledge base.
So how can developers use RAG to make conversational AI better?
When developers use RAG, they can actually select the sources that the LM can choose from before answering a question. So if you have a highly curated data set that you really want your conversational AI to use, then that really increases the quality of the responses that you're going to get versus a standard LLM with its memory and what it was trained on. So if you have a highly curated data set, it's much better to use RAG so that you can control the answers a bit more.
So why use ZeroEntropy versus doing it yourself?
Yeah, using ZeroEntropy is super simple. Our API is extremely easy to use in terms of uploading documents and then retrieving information. But on our side, there's a lot of work that goes into the models that we use, but also the whole data processing step, which is really important with contextualizing the data, re-ranking the results. And so you get all of that accuracy in just a few lines of code.
So I'm hearing you're going to do all the hard work that developers don't want to do, and better.
Yeah, exactly. We're trying to, at least.
So how can developers use RAG to build more trustworthy sources and information?
Yeah, with RAG, you actually get the citations, you actually get the specific snippets back from your own knowledge base, which is really a way to build trust with the users, because they can actually click on the citations and find them in the original documents, and that really builds trust versus just having an LLM output an answer where you're not exactly sure where that answer came from. It's a great use case when you need, that verification step.
And I assume with zero entropy as well, you guys have your own guardrails in place, so your LLMs don't hallucinate, but also very much use the results that come back from your own documents.
Yeah, exactly. We actually leave that flexibility to the developers themselves, and we only provide the search results back so that they can prompt their LLM in a way that is aligned with their specific business use case. And so we only provide the search results to the developers.
So how do you evaluate when AI is working well?
Yeah, that's a very difficult question. We see a lot of AI products, struggling to make sure that it's actually working in production in real life use cases. There's always the feedback from the users on the end result. There's also the LLM as a judge on the output itself. What we think at Zero Entropy is it's important to evaluate each step that the AI agent is going to achieve. And one of those steps is actually the search part, where the agent is going to look for relevant information before performing the action. And that step is actually critical, because if no relevant information was found, it's very likely that the agent is not going to do the right thing. So evaluating the search is pretty important. And the way that we do it at Zero Entropy is building ground truth datasets and then computing classic ML metrics like precision and recall and MRR to make sure that the results that we provide are accurate and also are ranked in the right way. And that's actually critical to make sure that the RAG itself actually works.